Second connection, and we're live. Okay, I think I might have to turn this up this way. Because all the comments will come inside this. There we go. I think that's probably about it there. Good evening, everyone. I think yes, we are live. Slight change of scenery. As you'll notice, I'm not up in the cavern now. Friday night, week 5 already. My goodness, how did that happen? Hi, Ricky. Wounded Highlanders are in. Goodness already. Hello, guys. Week 5. I've had some amazing discussions with some pretty extraordinary athletes over the last few weeks. Slightly different approach this week. Still in lift with stone lifting. But this one's very personal to me. This is my favourite. My hero, my dad. I'm calling tonight one from the horse's mouth. Because, I mean, I've been banging on about my dad for years now, you know, telling everybody a story. And, I mean, I'm telling my version of it as I see it. But I actually thought last week, wouldn't it be lovely if you heard it from Dad himself, you know. So, without any further ado, I am going to introduce you to my dad.
Hello, hello, hello.
There he's there. So, I'm going to sit close. We're bubbling as a family, so we're alright. There's no wild nonsense with coronavirus and stuff like that. So, my dad, I have looked up this man my whole life. So I have for all sorts of reasons. I mean, he still holds my mum's hand. They're married nearly 60 years. He's got an unshakable Christian faith, which is a very, very admirable thing for a man in this day and age. It is. But his strength has always been the thing that everybody who knows him, everybody's heard about him. People who've never met him, but around the world here in stone lifting, know of Jack Shanks. He was, for anybody who doesn't know, my dad was the first man who lifted any stones after Donald Denny. Did it in 1972, barehanded. He came back in 1973 and he carried them. The story behind that, there's a lot of stuff that leads up to that. And, you know, I can bang on about it all night, and I have been for years, so I think it's time to let my dad do that. Who it is.
Oh,
so,
dear.
Mr. Shanks.
Oh, dear.
Jack Shanks.
Oh, dear.
I mean, obviously with all of these things, with what you did with the Denny Stones, I mean, everything has an origin. People want to hear about origins. That's why history is such an important thing to everybody. And I mean, in relation to your story with the Denny's, I mean, we all know what you did, but what led up to that? I mean, what was it that caught your eye about the Denny Stones?
Well, we lived in Belfast at the time, and we had a neighbour a few doors down, a good friend of your mum, Joyce's, Frances, you called her, and Frances got the Sunday Post, the Scottish paper, and she came up to the house one day and showed us this article where the Denny Stones had been lifted at last.
Yes.
Now, I'd never even heard of Denny Stones.
It was a Sunday Post, wasn't it?
No, Sunday Post.
Sunday Post, yeah.
And I never even heard of them. And there was a photograph of this guy lifting when he got a great praise for doing it. And I thought that was interesting. I sort of worked out what they weighed, and I thought they probably weighed about 440 and 360 from what the article said.
Yes.
I thought it'd been maybe a bit less than that. And I thought, well, I can do one-hand deadlift at 440 and that's much lower to the ground.
Yeah.
I wonder, can I do that? Didn't think much more about it.
A one-arm deadlift at 440. That's 200 kilos, the new money.
But anyway, that was okay. The very next week, the same paper had an article about this. And because the chap was wearing hand straps,
yes,
David Webster and a guy called Charlie Allen, who was a world champion caber tosser.
He was, that's right. And they wrote the book together, didn't they? They wrote that Donald Denny book together.
They did. And they challenged anybody to do it correctly, and it was actually to go the distance, wasn't just lift them. Yeah. And I really got the bug at that point, you know.
I know the feeling of getting the bug. I know that feels.
So, being me, I had to find out all the dimensions, and that was difficult. It was getting nowhere. Yeah. And then I suddenly thought, policeman. Yes. If a policeman goes to a road traffic accident, he measures everything.
He does.
That's the way we were taught. And so I wrote to the local police.
This would have been about 1971 or thereabouts, wouldn't it? Sort of November time.
When did I lift him? Was it 72?
It was 72.
Oh no, it would have been
May
70. Oh, it was 72 then.
So was it as late as 72?
It'd probably been.
I think the article was about 71 if I remember right. November, December if we look back at the article.
Yeah.
So obviously
certainly
it's
around
left
that
it,
time, yeah. Definitely by the end of 71.
Yes.
And anyway, I wrote to Inspector Gregg,
Mm-hmm.
the local police.
Was that in Bankery Police? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. It must be in that area. I can't remember now if it was that or maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, he also had a constable called Jim Dawson.
Yes.
And he gave Jim the job of doing a diagram.
Okay.
And what a job did he do. It's
funny you should mention that.
It's funny.
It's funny you should mention that because I happen to have.
So that is the original.
This is one I prepared earlier. This is actually the original. I don't know if you guys. I'm going to kind of scroll it across here. This is the original diagram, as you can see, written by Constable Dawson.
Constable Jim Dawson.
Constable Jim Dawson. I'm just going to scroll across here. I'll stick a photograph of this up later on, so you can see how thorough about the ring heights, the ring thicknesses, the dimensions of the stones, the height of the stones, and the weights, as they seen it back then.
Yeah,
So that's the wee pit. That's the original one that was sent to my dad.
That is the original
Right about
one.
early 1972.
All those years ago.
Imagine me having that here. Sorry, Dad, go ahead.
No, that was fantastic. So I started thinking then, well, you need to warm up before you do this, and I made a couple of concrete like suitcases.
I remember the suitcase as well. Yep.
And then, of course, when I got the sketch, where I dumped them.
Yeah, they were really heavy, but weren't they awkward?
They were very, very awkward.
Yeah, I remember the steam coming out of your ears in the garage when you were lifting those.
So I made out of wood the sort of the shape, the sort of triangular shape of the big stone. And the later one was more regular.
Yes.
And I
remember you making the frame, like the wooden frame for them in the garage.
You remember that? Yeah.
I know it was only 8, but I mean, I remember it well. I mean, I remember you. Was it Bertie Barfoot?
Bertie Barfoot helped me too. That's right. And we mixed the cement and we put stones in it and iron bars in it. And then I did a cutout of the top of the big stone because it was a regular shape.
Yeah.
And bounced it on a pin to get the centre of gravity.
Okay. Wow.
And then we dropped the
eye bolt down into it.
The eye bolt in it. And again, that was a good friend of mine, Joe Adams.
Yes.
Who lived fairly near us, and he worked with metal.
He did. He worked in a firm called Mackey's, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, a big engineering firm, gone now.
And him and I chatted together, and he made me the rings for us.
The threaded rings.
With exact dimensions as is on that sketch.
So how did you come up with the idea for the rings? Was it Joe's idea? Or was it, did
no,
you say to Joe?
It was my idea because
okay.
I knew I had to have something to warm up with.
Sure.
And I drew him a sketch of what I thought I would want.
And I don't have the sketch.
So those are probably the rings that are used all over the world now.
They are. It's the same principle now. The same, roughly the same heights, and certainly the dimensions of the rings and the oval shape and all is perfect. You know, because we've obviously seen them many times. And, measured them and everything's.
That's right, because we heard rings, but then when we got that sketch, we realised the ring on the back stone, it wasn't a ring at all. It was oblong shape.
Yep.
And then I got the measurement, it was 1/2 inch steel, the big ring was 3/4 inch steel and all that sort of thing.
Jimmy's having a go at my memory here. I'm not that old, big man, you know. It hasn't hit me yet. I'm close to it. Like.
You're only 58. It only seems like yesterday.
There's Enzo and there's Brett on.
Hi Enzo.
There's Matt Jones. You can't beat stupid. Big Jack.
Oh,
this is all the guys. You see all everybody's names.
Oh yeah.
That's watching us, and then they tend to hurl abuse at us.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, which we obviously ignore and pretend we didn't see it.
Thanks very much, lad.
Yeah, so you had a sketch of the things drawn up, and Joe Adams created the rings for you.
He created those rings, and then I made these concrete stones.
Yes.
And then I could hardly wait till the thing dried.
Oh,
I could hardly wait. I don't think I gave it a week. And actually, Joyce put a photograph on her Facebook of the first
I
lift.
seen it last night.
Now,
Yeah.
that wasn't the proper rings on at that time because it
Yes.
was just spuds on the end of the.
Yes, because the
the
eye bolts
stones.
were actually open.
Yeah.
So you could sort of hook something over it, and then the
That's
actual
right.
bolts, the
Uh-huh.
rings themselves, we still have them out there, I think.
That's right.
Had a bit of a,
And
like a C shape, yeah, you could hook them through.
They're hooked in. So then when Joe made me the proper rings in, we closed them and put
Closed
them
it
on.
down, yeah.
And
they're still there now.
they're still there. They're still out in the back garden now.
50 years next year.
Is it not even more?
No,
I
because
suppose it is.
there was one time we were down with we're down here, we were just playing with the stones,
Aye.
and I put them up on like a pallet,
I
you know,
remember that,
just to
yeah.
kind of keep them off the. I can't remember why, because to stop all the moss and stuff growing underneath them and wrecking your concrete. But I actually turned one of them on its side to get it off, and there was, unbelievably, February 1972 is actually etched in the concrete on the bottom of the wee stone.
How did I manage to do that?
I have no idea. You obviously did it with your finger, you just squeezed it in with those mighty mitts of yours. Just,
But how did it get underneath?
I know, I said, well, you probably lifted it up like that. You know, you did.
Well, I didn't,
Yeah,
want to,
so-
didn't want to show off.
February 1972 they were made, and they weighed 440 on the big one.
Well, I thought they were
It
430.
was 440 of materials in them,
Because that's the material that went
Yeah.
into them, you know.
and 360 in the wee one. So that's, in old money, that's about, or new money, that's 200 kilos and 160 kilos.
Yeah, well, that's what they
You know,
went
so about
then, anyway.
800 pounds.
Yeah.
In total, yeah.
Yeah. And I could hardly wait till those things dried.
Yes.
And I lifted them first time. I think that's the photograph.
It's a good photo. I mean, you can see that. I mean, you were working to get them lifted.
Oh, yeah.
And we even have a video of it where you're working. But later on, I remember, you know, obviously that was your first
Oh,
couple of lifts
yeah,
with them.
yeah.
But as time went on and you
Oh, it
got
was just a
better,
training weight
yeah,
then,
it just
yeah.
became a training weight. I mean,
Yeah.
for anybody to say 800 £, is a training weight, it's just it's ridiculous. I've lifted these stones. I mean, about
Yes,
that much
yes,
off the ground,
yeah.
and I know how heavy they are, and how it's the size of them. They're monsters, that.
They're far more awkward than the Denny
Oh,
stones.
way more
yeah.
awkward. The Denny stones, you can fit yourself in around them, and they're lovely. Everything feels nice and connected to you. You know,
Yeah.
these things are monsters. So, I mean, there's a few guys, about 9 or 10, including yourself. Did they have lifted those?
That's right, and they've all found it. Most of them have found it quite awkward.
Everybody's found it
and
quite
whereas
awkward,
they
yeah,
lifted the Denny's easy
Yeah, they
enough.
lifted the Denny's a lot
Yeah,
more comfortably. Yeah.
Well, the Denny's were more comfortable.
Yeah. So when you made your stones, obviously, I mean, at this stage, this was just you getting prepared for everything.
Yeah.
In relation to, I mean, nobody really, there's no real evidence about how Denny actually lifted the stones. Did he straddle them? Did he do them side by side? I suppose, I mean, for me over the years, I've gathered loads and loads of wee snippets. You know, it's just a bit here and a bit there. You know, of stuff that Denny wrote, of stuff that David Webster wrote.
Yeah.
You know, Martin Janksik's book, James Graham's book, that was based on Peter Martin's work.
Yeah.
You know, so you're putting all these wee bits, and all you can do is surmise, but based on stuff that I've seen, it's not just on what maybe somebody has said to somebody down the years. And one of the things that struck me was Denny himself talks about the clunk of the stones,
Yeah.
the clunking together. So obviously, if you're lifting them in a side-by-side fashion, they can't clunk.
Yeah.
If you're lifting them in a straddle fashion, you always have that big hollow boom.
That's right.
So, whenever you lifted them, I mean, did you make any inquiries as to how? Did you literally just make your own?
No, I hadn't a clue. All I did know was what I saw on the paper of them and lifted, and I thought, well, you straddle them.
Yes, because the straddle guy just lift them in the paper. Yeah.
I never thought of it doing side. I never even occurred to me to lift them side by side.
Yeah.
I mean, all those things came later.
Yes.
And they didn't even come in my time. And
No, I think the first side-by-side lifter that's recorded is Frank Civittone.
Yeah.
And that was only because they were still kind of chained a bit, so he couldn't actually get them into a straddle position.
Frank, a real gentleman.
A real gentleman,
We've met him, we've had him
strong
here.
guy, mightiest mitts.
A lovely man.
Yeah,
Lovely man.
mightiest mitts.
Yeah.
We'll see. There's Jamie's coming over for a lift off, and he is indeed.
Hey, Jamie.
Look forward to seeing that. Look forward to seeing that, brother. Yeah, so I mean, when you were training for these, you just adopted the straddle style, and the thing about it is, I mean, with the way things are now, you know, I mean, there's Jamie, there's Brett, there's Mark Haydock, you know, there's Jim Splain, there's all that big brotherhood that we have now.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all lifting and training and swapping stories. I mean, when I started to train for it, I mean, I got all of your experience. You told me all of the things, you know, that were an issue and the things to look out for.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one thing you didn't tell me, and I'm going to come to that.
What was that? What was that?
No, I'll come to that in a wee minute.
What did I do
But
wrong?
we're lucky, you know, in that we have each other's experience.
Yeah.
But all you had was a photograph in the newspaper, some measurements, and all the stuff you had in the garage, you know. So
on a blank sheet.
and pretty much a blank sheet. So what you were doing, I mean, I remember, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Peter Martin when he was around. He referred to you and Jim Spillane and all the crew was around those days as the founding fathers of modern day stoneless, and I was really touched to hear so. And I feel it myself, obviously, because I feel the pride of you being my dad. But you know, you guys had nothing, you know, to work off. Like you said, it was a blank sheet.
Yeah.
So all of your training. I mean, obviously, you were used to being a weightlifter. I mean, you had a British one-arm deadlift record. You had a Northern Ireland deadlift record. You know, so you knew how to train and you knew how to build your strength up. But I mean, did you train any different for this than you would have for a normal weight, or did you just find it easy enough to do?
The strange thing, even though I had never heard of the Denny Stones, the sort of training I was doing was absolutely perfect for lifting the Denny Stones. And that is, if anybody has got only weights at home and they want to prepare for the Denny Stones, one hand deadlift and the hack lift. I love the hack lift. You're in a far better mechanical position, and it suited me much better in the deadlift. But the one hand deadlift and the hack lift, and you'd have no problem lifting the Denny Stones.
One of the things that I found out about, because I used the hack lift obviously at the very start on your advice, and the one-arm deadlift. But since then, I mean, I've seen a lot of people doing hack lifts, and you and I have wee skinny legs. You know, let's face it, we haven't got tree trunks or legs. And to be honest with you, I mean, with small hamstrings at the back, we don't have them all sticking out the back. It actually does make the hack lift a much more manageable lift, because I know loads of guys who can deadlift 3 times what I can deadlift, but they struggle with the hack lift.
I can't understand
because
that.
when it hits that middle point just past your knees, you push your hips forward, and it's the second half of the movement. They can't get their legs out of the way, so it actually locks.
Yeah.
It's not that they haven't the strength to lift the weight. It's just mechanically, when you have big legs, particularly the hamstrings at the back are large, it gets in the way of the lift. So a lot of people struggle with it, but I mean, certainly for you and I, it was a godsend. I found it. I still, my PB on the hack lift is way more than my deadlift. I think yours was £100 more.
Well, I was doing 600 in the hack lift and about 520 in the deadlift. I didn't ever consider myself a good deadlifter.
It's a 600 at 12 stone, you know, 11 and a half stone at the time.
11.5,
You know, it's good off the ground.
But you know, I heard about the hack lift years and years ago. Somebody loaned me a book on Hackersmith, the great wrestler.
Hackersmith, yes.
And that's how I learned about it.
That's who it was named after.
I didn't like squats, and this seems to substitute.
Well, they call it the hack squat now, and in a lot of places that's right. A modern
they call it after Hackersmith.
After Hackersmith, yeah. Some people call it a hack lift, others call it a hack squat, because it does put you in that squat position. Although the weight's below you, so obviously a much safer way to squat. It is.
And there you go.
So, whenever you actually when you went to do the Denny Stones, obviously you trained. I mean, I take it you just didn't go out, left them go. That's okay. Let's go to Scotland. I take it you did a wee bit of training just to be sure.
Well, I said it, but there wasn't much time involved in it, because I realised that from the word go I could do it.
Yes.
So I contacted David Webster immediately, and he organised it fairly soon.
Okay.
So it was the 8th of May that I
8th of May 72, that's correct.
And my birthday was the 16th of May. I'd have been 37 on the 16th of May.
That's right, so you're 36.
So I was still 36 then,
Yeah, because when the next time when you were over, it was just after your birthday, so you were 36 and 38. You know, but it was only a year apart, but it was just that side, just either side of your birthday.
Well, I counted myself 37 because only a week away from it.
Yeah, well, that's 36 is 36. You know, I mean, everybody's who's the youngest, who's the oldest, who's the fattest, who's the skinniest.
Only a week.
You know. I do get that, but yeah, I mean, 36 was a good, because you obviously at 36, you're well into your strength at that point. You know. What about your grip?
What about it?
I mean, I always remember. Look, we need to see if anybody can see this. So you hold up this hand here. Hold that against me. Look at that difference. Look at that difference. We are very similar in height and build. Well, actually, you were a bit taller. But we're sort of similar in weight, but there's an inch on top of my fingers, and I don't have small hands, you know. But those mighty mitts, you know. I mean, obviously with the grip on the rings, I mean, it is more difficult than holding onto a bar, because it's smooth, the shape of it. You know, what was your experience of it? I mean, I know you could lift your big ones without the grip.
I could lift them with the ordinary grip, But I was thinking one day, you know, you do a one-hand deadlift and you've got a bar.
Yes.
And this idea come up to me. I wonder if you put something in the ring to make it like a bar.
Yes.
And then I suddenly thought, maybe could you put your thumb in? And I tried that and it worked. And that's good if you're doing reps.
Yes. Okay.
And so that's what brought that about.
So pretty much with the curve of it, you thought you'd stick your thumb in and flatten out the curve.
Thumb in the wee bit.
That's
flatten out the curve and you have a flat bar.
Yeah.
And I have a good big thumb.
It's massive compared to mine as well. I know, because I mean, there's a lot of talk. I mean, obviously, one of the big challenges on the Dinnies, apart from the weight, is holding on to the things, you know. And there's a lot of discussion about it. I mean, obviously, people are very passionate about stone lifting and stuff. So it means some of the debates get quite heated. I've noticed over the years. People talk about, you know, hook grip, true grip. You know, thumb grip is
It's still your hand, isn't it?
It's still you in your hand.
You're not using any artificial means.
And I mean, whenever you lift it with your thumb in, I mean, there's a fair bit. Well, for me, there's a fair bit of pain involved in the early days until I got conditioned to it. I don't think you ever had any issue with that.
No, I hadn't. No.
I mean,
I wouldn't have used the hook grip and anything else.
No.
I would use the ordinary grip.
No, well, we'll have that picture of you doing the 970 on the bar with no straps or hooks, just a reverse grip. Yeah. No, I mean, the thumb grip thing, I mean, even now, you know, because whenever guys are training for it and they do employ their thumb in the lift, you know, the natural starting point for folk for here who know about Olympic lifting is the ordinary hook grip.
Yeah.
And the ordinary hook grip just involves your index finger and your middle finger over your thumb.
Well, I never used that at all.
No, but you would have known about that back then, or did
probably
you?
I must have heard of it, yeah.
But yours actually moves everything across one.
Yeah.
No, it does, because you're putting that in the middle, and your hands in the middle.
Fill the gap in with your thumb.
The mechanics of it actually force you to have two fingers either side of the middle.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know, so we called it I remember you called it the thumb grip. When I was a kid, you know, used to call it, where everyone else calls the normal one a hook grip. So
yeah.
that was the invention of the thumb grip. You know, it was just because you were going to make a wee bar, weren't you?
Was it? Yeah.
Cheater.
But I never used it.
But obviously your conscience got the better of you.
Oh no, you can't do that.
Well, your ingenuity as well got the better of you. But I mean, the principle's sound.
Yeah.
You know, because if you were to flatten out those rings in the Dinnies,
It made it a bar.
it's a completely different lift. You know, you have those D rings now. You see,
Yeah.
folks using. I have a couple that you gave me that you used on the cars.
Yeah.
When I use those, I mean, they're so simple. You know, compared to the rings to hold on to,
Yeah.
you can lift a lot more on, hold a lot more on them.
Yeah, that's right, Steve.
They can. So what about setting your lift up? I mean, I know David Webster played a big part in it for you.
Right. He played a massive part in
Yeah.
it. I'll tell you a story about that.
Okay.
We arrived over in Patark on the Saturday night. And the lift, I think, was the lift to be on a Monday.
It was on the Monday morning.
Was it on a Monday
Yeah,
morning?
or lunchtime. Yeah.
And we arrived there. David was there, and he had a friend with him, like, called Alec. And Alec and Davy.
Well, that was his photographer friend, yes.
Yeah, but they did a hand balancing act.
Oh my goodness, okay.
And made us very well. But David scared the living daylights out of me.
Right.
Because he said he had organised for the press to be there, for photographers to be there,
for goodness
and
sake.
for TV cameras there. And I wasn't expecting that.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was just me going over to do a lift and that was it, and nothing more about it. Didn't give it any more thought. But I get really afraid then. So, my goodness, I'm going to make a fool of myself here. Because
You're a Shanks, you're a performer.
Well, no, not really.
No, you're not. You're not like me that way. Definitely not. Yeah.
Now, David told me that strong men all over the world had failed us. And I was suddenly thinking, here's a wee spurt 11.5 stone. I need my head examined. And I did really get anxious. So Charlie was over with me, and
Charlie Sim.
Charlie Sim.
Uncle Charlie, we call him. I call him. Yeah.
Uncle Charlie. And
Lawrence McKeown.
Lawrence McKeown.
Yes.
He was a terrific Olympic weightlifter. And they come over with me. And Joyce. And I said, I'm going to have to look at these stones.
He left me at home.
I never
He
even
left
seen
me at home.
Yeah, and I regret that,
My
by the way. I regret that. I wish I could undo that.
He left me at home.
Sorry,
It's okay,
sorry,
I forgive you.
sorry.
I forgive you. I brought you with me when I came over.
You did,
Just to rub it in a wee bit.
I know, and you did. So anyway, I said, look, I'm going to have a go at these stones, and I'm not going to get any sleep at all.
Because this was the Saturday and you still had to go to
This
the
was
Monday, didn't
Saturday.
you? Yeah.
So we settled in the hotel, the Tillydrin Hotel,
Right.
and the beautiful place. I think the oil people bought it over
Right.
later, but it's a beautiful hotel.
And was that in Kincardine O'Neill, was it?
Yes, that's right,
Okay.
Kincardine O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I said to Charlie and all, look, we've got to go down, I've got to see if I can lift these things. So I brought over with me my rings, obviously to warm up.
Yeah.
And Sid Strachan had organised the weights for me,
Yes.
so I could warm up.
Sid Strachan was great. What a great guy he was. He ended up lifting the
He's from Scotland, powerlifting champion.
He was from Bankery, wasn't it? Bankery Powerlifting Club.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, provided all the weights.
A lovely guy, a lovely fella.
Sadly, not with us now.
Yeah, no, he died accidentally. I'm sorry. A lovely fella. So anyway, I said I'm going to have to try and see if I can lift these things, or I'm going to have no peace. Now I brought over with me my rings, and I brought over 4 55-pound plates.
Right. Okay.
Because we'd hired a van, and so we headed down to the hotel. We spoke to the proprietor, Mr. Stewart.
Yep.
I think him and his wife were the proprietors, and he unlocked the stones for me.
Nice.
I did a wee bit of a warm up with the 455 weights on each hand, and then had to go with the tiny stones and lifted them.
Brilliant.
And boy, it put my mind at ease.
Aye. How did you find them the first time?
Well, they were just heavy enough that time because I wasn't probably warmed up.
Yeah.
But I certainly lifted them and held them, and so I knew I could do it.
What did you put in your hands? Because obviously you didn't have chalks, you didn't.
That's right.
That's a good story.
I had an upset stomach on the way down, and we called into a chemist shop, and we got stomach powder. So I put stomach powder in my hands.
You're not supposed to put that in your stomach.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I thought that was a good story, with the stomach powder in your hands and stuff.
I forgot all about that, Stephen. So we went back to the hotel anyway, and Lawrence McCollum had a melodeon with him.
Yes.
And I had a mandolin.
Right.
We had a great night.
Brilliant.
And we played all the modern songs. Amazing Grace had just come out, so we've got a few.
Modern, as in 1972 modern.
That's right,
yes.
modern music. No,
we're playing Beyonce songs.
Nothing like it, nothing like it. The very old-fashioned stuff, but we enjoyed that.
Brilliant.
And that was okay. And then we arrived that Monday morning, and all the press was there and cameras.
Did you go to church on the Monday morning, or was it the
No,
Sunday?
that was the next time I went.
Oh, that was for the carry.
Yeah, it was the carry. It was a different thing. That was different. That was a year later.
Yes.
So where was it? Yeah. So the reporters were going around and they were asking everybody, "Are you lifting the stones?" And they ignored me completely.
Well, I did. What were we? 11 stone 7, 162 pounds.
About 11 stone 7.
73 kilos thereabouts.
Oh, always in around 11, 7, 11, 10. Well, always well under 12.
Yeah, so you don't look like a stone lifter. You don't.
No, they completely ignored me. Completely ignored me.
Yeah.
And then I did a really thorough warm up. I even did a warm up with a big stone first and the other thing.
That's what I mean. We don't have much in the way of footage of this, for anybody. I mean, it's interesting because I didn't really know. I know David Webster had told you that there was going to be photographers. I didn't realise that there was TV there. Was there TV there?
I've actually got a photograph of it. You can put it on afterwards.
Oh, the one from behind.
The one from behind. You can see them on there.
So there could be a TV. So there might be some footage of that.
Well, it could be.
Possibly in Scottish TV.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something to chase up.
I've got that photograph. I'll show it to you later.
Aye.
And it's actually taken from behind me, and you can see all the reporters and the cameramen and all that sort of jazz,
Anytime I look at that, I always look at it because David Webster's in the photograph.
Yeah.
He's really young in it. It's a fantastic photograph.
Yeah.
And I can see you with the stones from behind, and that's what I focus on. And then Lawrence McConnell, I think.
That's
one
right.
edge of the photograph, but always.
That's right.
I just never. I could see the cameras, but never really took in the detail of that.
That's right.
I'll chase that.
I'll give you that photograph tonight when you get home.
Yeah.
You can show it, and so that was that. Where would we go from there then? Oh yeah, the photographers. I don't know. And then they missed the first lift.
They missed the first lift?
I don't know how.
Goodness gracious.
And they again asked me if I would do it, and I didn't know 3 times or something. And I don't know how they missed it. Maybe it took me so long to warm up.
Yeah. Well, I suppose right enough.
Because
Yeah.
I did a very, very thorough warm up.
I know that's the thing I was talking about. I was going to say to you, because one of the things that for me is the first time I was obviously as nervous as you were on a Saturday night. You know, the first time I went to them, and I always remember you picking up the big stone with only like a few plates on the back one, and I'm like, who does that? You know, everybody kind of won't get up to the back weight and maybe just get up to close to the big weight, but you know.
Well, remember,
Great.
I had no experiences
Yeah.
whatsoever, and I'd never even seen these stones before.
Oh, true, yeah.
And I wanted to know if I could lift the big one.
Well,
Because
fair enough,
all the talk was it was a hard one.
Yes.
So that's probably why I wanted to see if I could.
Oh,
lift
that
the
always
big one.
amazed me, you know, warming up with a big stone and like a wee lightweight at the back.
Well, it wouldn't have been all that late, but
Aye.
and then I knew that everything
Yeah.
was okay. And then the first one I did a very pushed back lid in.
Yes.
The rest of them were just with age.
Yeah. There actually is a photograph of your first lift where your head's right up.
Oh, I know. Well, I was making sure.
But we were taking it
making
seriously
sure
at that point, but obviously
Yeah.
then at that point. I mean, how did you find them? Because obviously your adrenaline would have been up, you know, compared to.
Well, I hope this doesn't sound big-headed, but I could have lifted those all day.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I liked the world.
Aye.
That's the truth.
It's amazing with a bit of adrenaline in it.
And
Yeah.
you know the reason why? Because I was lifting far heavier weights in training.
Yeah. I think that.
And that's the secret.
Yeah, the recorded weights of them, I can't remember what they are in kilos, but they were in around 785 pounds was the combined weight.
Yeah.
Is what they were then. There's been lots of debate about that over the years. And I mean, I don't know, none of us will ever know, you know, but I suppose if they were weighed, it would have been prior to your lift, so they'd been weighed in the 60s.
Yeah.
Possibly the 50s when David first
When
found them, 53.
David got them, yeah.
So the accuracy of the weighing equipment, I don't know.
Yeah.
There has been talk that maybe with, you know, lifting the stones up and down over the years, but nobody had done that when you came along.
Yeah.
So they might have been that weight.
Yeah,
In between, I mean, they're just going up and down in gravel, they're made out of granite. I can't see that would have made much of a difference.
Yeah.
Between you lifting them, they were weighed again by Gordon Denny around about 1990,
Right.
thereabouts. And between then, what they weighed then and now, they're exactly the same.
Oh, then that must
And
have
there
been
has
the
been
weight,
a ton of lifts. There's been 150 lifts since then, roughly.
Yeah, it must have been.
It has, and they haven't changed at all. So,
yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm not saying that the weights weren't accurate, but I suppose it's just, it's all about facts. You know, you've got to get the facts out there. You know, so I think when you put two and two together, you know, these things have been lifted a lot, and they're exactly the same weight now as they were.
Yeah.
You know, whenever they were weighed by Gordon in the 90s. You know, so
Yeah.
I suppose that's something to be considered. But I mean, you were lifting in around 800 pounds. I suppose in your training.
Well, I was revving 800 pounds and training 3 times a week.
Aye, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I remember you saying to me, you know, when you got to train beyond the weight of the Denny stones, like that's just a thing that you just actually go and do.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for me, getting up to the weight of the Denny stones was everything. You know, once I got there, I was like, flip, that was really hard. I'm not sure I could lift another. You put a washer on top of that, I don't think I could have lifted it. You know, so that's what always impressed me is that you were so far ahead. Whether they were 785 at the time or 733, it doesn't really matter.
No.
You had trained beyond the weight of them.
And those weights I was using were dead accurate.
Yes.
As you know, because you weighed them later.
I had them weighed. Yeah, I had them weighed by the local trading standards. You know, they're the people that come into your shop and weigh the bags of sugar to make sure that the weighing equipment was really accurate, and I get every single plate weighed down to do that 2 decimal points.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't want to be training, you know, thinking I'm lifting 734 or whatever, and then it turns out it's only 7.
Yeah.
You know, and get caught out on the day. You know, so I was confident that what I was lifting was the exact weight of the stone. I was happy just to train up to the weight of the stones.
Well,
I still found them really, really difficult, I have to say.
Well, I learned the hard way in that.
Yeah.
First time when I got an iron record.
Oh yes, your deadlift.
And I thought the weights were what they were supposed to be.
Yes.
And I thought I was lifting 500 pounds.
Yes, which is about 230
and they
kilos,
weren't.
227 and a half.
So a month later it went over to 507 and 3/4 or something. But after that everything was weighed accurately.
Yes, well for 507 3/4 is 230 kilos. So you were probably lifting in around the 220 mark then?
Yeah.
With the number that you were given?
Yeah.
So it was probably about 10
Well, it
kilos
wasn't
shy.
training much in the deadlift, it was more the hack lift.
Aye.
Hack lift, yeah.
Brilliant. So that's a heck of a story, because I think, you know, for me going over, I mean, obviously I had you for support. You know, I mean, it's not that you didn't have support when you had Lawrence and
Yeah,
I had people around me who
And
had
David
lifted
Webster.
David Webster.
Yeah, it was great help.
I had people around me who had lifted the stones before. You know, we all knew how to do it. But you went in basically just on when it would come down to it, it was just you and the stones. There was nobody saying, look, stand this way, do this. And one of the things that still strikes me, and I don't think I've seen anybody doing it since,
What's that?
is the way that you lifted them. So when the stones, you put the stones in a line, so the rings are actually straight. Where we put them, we tend to put them at almost like a 90-degree angle, so that your right hand is actually closed, which protects your bicep, but you actually are standing in an open position, like you would stand on a barbell.
I wouldn't have known any better anyway, Steve.
You know, I've never seen anybody lift them that way. I mean, your position and the ease with which they come off the ground. I mean, obviously it's a technique that works really well. It is, but I've only ever seen people adopt in the straddle roughly my stance. You know, I mean, Brett would turn the big stone 180 degrees to where I told him, because there's a balance point on it which works really well for him, you know. And I mean, he lifts them so easy, he's so fast off the ground with them. But then when I lift them, I do it the other way, but still our hand is closed, which actually protects your bicep. But when you turn your hand that way, the bicep's open.
Well, I wouldn't even
I've never seen anybody doing that.
I wouldn't. I just didn't know, Steve.
Yeah.
I just thought you just lift them.
That's what I say. We have the benefit of all that now. You know, where you just it was just you and the stones, and you just go lift them.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose at that point is the first time that it showed the world that it was actually possible. You know, because up to that point, I mean, we had Dave Price in 1963, which is the year I was born.
A real gentleman. We met him later.
Yes, we did. A real gentleman, a real nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, he managed to lift them with straps.
See, that's one thing I would say about all the stone lifters. They're some of the nicest guys you can meet.
Apart from Jimmy Gorian.
Sorry, Jimmy, I didn't say that.
Jack, did you ever do any natural stone lifting? Stones to chest? Well, Dad, you can answer that, yeah.
No, I never even heard of them.
No, Dad knew nothing about it. That was the only story we ever really got at that stage of the game, Jimmy, was that newspaper article, and it was all about the Denny stone. So that was Dad's only real sort of encounter with any historic or natural stones.
I never even heard of any stones. So I mean, you can't really consider me a stone lifter because all I was doing was the Denny stones.
Yeah, but these are considered, you know, such an almost unattainable feat. You know, I mean, it was like nobody can lift these. I mean, except for Denny, nobody's done it. Nobody can. It was never recorded.
Looking at many people have done it now.
I think it's the 4-minute mile thing in it. You know, once somebody shows that it can be done, well then that shows people if I do this, then it is possible.
Well, I was just fortunate to be there.
Of course, yeah. I mean, right place and right time and all that, yeah.
Yeah, just fortunate.
But I would have loved actually for you to have been involved in what we're all doing now, because we all, you know, we swap notes and all the side by side stuff. It's into the equation. You know, I know you would have done well at all that. I mean, your biggest ring lift was it £900 and 6 ounces?
No, but the biggest one, and everything really remarked, was 938.5 pounds. And then the one the one with the 6,000 people were watching, and we had a certified scale in it.
That's right, and two referees,
and it weighed 900 pounds, 7 ounces.
7 ounces was it? Wasn't 6 ounces then?
No. And I'd have been up to just over 12 stone then.
Right, okay, because you did look bigger on your shoulders and stuff.
It was a wee bit heavier.
So, obviously, I mean, that was it. You had done the Denny stones. I mean, it was in all the papers, you know, history's made and all this sort of. It was wonderful, because I remember all the press coming to the house at home. You know, in work, everybody was talking about it. You know, in your work, not mine.
Yeah.
And so, at that point, I mean, obviously you've done it, but I take it then that there was a wee earworm in your about the carrying aspect of it.
I was interviewed when I lifted them by one of the reporters, a big guy who looked like a weightlifter himself, a massive big guy, and he said to me, "Well, you know, Denny carried them."
Was this in Scotland or at home?
This was in Scotland after I lifted them. Okay. He interviewed me after it, and I had that in the back of my mind. Yeah. So a very short time after
that would sting a wee bit too. It would be like, okay.
But then I got there. I mean, with my weight, that was all right. You can't do any better. And I certainly will never walk with that. No,
I know about that. But
no chance.
I suppose Denny never said he walked. He said he carried.
No, I was far too late.
Yeah.
But then how this came about the carrying. Back to the concrete stones again.
Okay.
And I still continued to train it at home, because I had a few exhibitions and things like that.
Yes.
I was called on to do this there.
I remember those.
And always took the stones with me.
Yeah. in the back of the car or in your pocket?
Oh no, they would have been taken on a lorry.
Yeah, brilliant.
But anyway, one thing I did notice in the garage actually, when I was lifting the concrete stones, sometimes I had to step forward and put them down.
Okay.
So I give that a wee bit of thought. I'm lifting the stones, but when I put them down, they're forward.
They've moved forward. Okay.
They move forward.
Okay.
So I thought about that. So what I did, I got the ordinary rings out.
Yeah.
And I put on roughly the weight of the stones.
Uh-huh.
And I went out to the backyard with them and carried them round the backyard a few times.
A few times.
And rang David Webster
Uh-huh.
and said, David, I know a way I can do this.
Wow.
And that's what started that.
So that was the lift and set down.
So lift and set down. So it probably means you have to lift them, well, 15, 20
I think you
times.
said 15. I think,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that was only a guess. I never
Yeah.
counted.
I suppose one of the things I've noticed that anybody, I've seen 3 people do it. I know there's 5 have done it. You know, there's yourself. Obviously, since Denny, there's yourself.
Yeah.
The next was Mark Felix
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2014.
He probably
at
walked
the
a bit,
games.
but yeah.
He did it side by side and took a few steps and set it down and took
Yeah.
a few steps.
So that was even better. That was much better.
And then we had Brian Irwin at the first gathering
Yeah.
and Mark Haydock at the first gathering.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, when the ones that I've seen, you know, obviously we had Big Pete Seddon on the bridge, and I was there. I was lucky to be there for that one as well. And everything starts off, you know, you're full of beans and energy, and you know, I mean, particularly you see guys that set off and they're up and down, and then everything slows down. You know, the lactic acid kicks in. You know,
the last wee
the
bit.
weight
Yeah.
and the last wee bit. I even remember myself. I mean, I know they're nothing to what you carried, but I managed to carry Brett Nichols stones across Petark Bridge.
Yeah, that's you did.
About 550 pounds.
Yeah.
And I started off like 2 men in a wheel lad. It was away. And I remember about halfway across thinking, how the heck am I going to get them? But then everybody was there and they were shouting at you, and I looked at the bridge and was wearing your vest that you wore when you carried the stones, and you know, there was something inside me said, no way, Stevie, you're failing here. But I remember you saying to me that the last 6 inches, and there's actually a wee shot of it,
Yeah.
of just that last 6 inches, you know, but the end of the bridge and
Clunk,
your last
yeah.
wee bit, and you said that
Right.
was the hardest.
It was.
But it nearly killed you. And I was the
It
same.
was. There was somebody in the crowd. There was the flat back lorry, and the crowd were all around it. And there was some man shouting at me, "You'll never be the same. You'll never be the same."
I know. But we get that. I mean, obviously, we're back in Belfast, and you've got this thing in your head. I know how I get these across the bridge, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, Denny only said he carried them, and he said about the distance. There was never anything about how. So this was your idea, just of, you know,
Well,
when you stand up and set them
It's
down.
certainly the only way I could do it. I would never walk with it.
Yeah. How did David react to that? David Webster. I'm sure he was excited. You know.
Well, I always thought at the time, you know, that you know, there wasn't really much thought about it. No, I never. I got the impression I was nothing to write home about.
Okay.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Because I thought, you know, no, walking with it would be the thing.
Yes.
And that's obviously what people are trying to do now, and they will do it.
Oh no, I think somebody someday will do it, but
somebody will do it, yeah.
yeah, well, I have my own thoughts on that. I mean, for example, for Denny, you know, if people who say he walked with him, I mean, Big Brian Shaw did not train for this.
No.
He came across with his natural strength, his
Right.
natural grip, which is what Denny had, because he didn't train for them.
Yeah.
He would have lifted them as a sort of a like a sideshow thing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, anytime he was there, I'll just lift these for a bit of fun. So it's not that he didn't have training rings. He didn't, like you and I, focus on the Denny stones and train them.
that's
So
right.
he did what he did, you know, without specifically training for it, as did Brian Shaw.
No, sure. If they
You know,
specialised on it, he would do it. Or
Yes, I think Big Brian Shaw would probably do it if he trained for it.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah,
Absolutely no problem
Pete
at all.
Seddon is in around the same weight.
I've never met him. No.
Oh, he's a lovely fella. In around the same weight as Donald Denny would have been at the time. And he trained for it, solid.
Oh, is he as late as that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Pete's tall, but he's not big and wide, if you know what I mean,
yeah.
but he's strong, and his grip's super strong.
fantastic.
You know, so I mean, and he was able to do it, but up and down, you know.
He
Whether you
did
take a
it
few
up and
steps
down,
or
yeah.
a combination of it, you know, I just, the whole, you know, picking them up and walking across the way, it is the gold standard.
Oh, that's right.
But having said that, and
somebody
it's just
will
a
do
thing
it.
that,
Somebody will do it.
I'm not saying it annoys me, but I mean, it surprises me, you know, when folks say that you have to do it that way, or not at all, like getting them across the bridge under your own steam, even with lifting, setting down. It's only 5 people have done it, so it can't be that easy. Can it?
No, it's
You
hard,
know what I
it's
mean?
hard,
Seriously,
it's hard
that's
to
just
do.
a thing that.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a fairly good grip to
Well,
do
yeah,
to do
for
15,
multiple
20 reps.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always looked at it. You know, I mean, I suppose you're sitting there with 734 pound in your hands, and you have to do minimum 15 reps for that.
Yeah.
You know, so your grip, everything's going to be tested to the max.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it is,
And you're
you know.
probably getting about a foot every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except at the end, I would imagine with the smaller lifts, you know, and it becomes
well,
the distance
that
becomes.
could be, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that last wee bit was rough right now.
So whenever you got to Scotland on that one, obviously you were feeling a bit more confident this time that you could certainly lift the stones.
Yeah.
But you probably still had the doubts, I would imagine, about actually making the distance.
Well, I never tried carrying the stones, so all the training was only on rings, really.
Okay. I mean, everybody. I mean, obviously the original feat was done on Patark Bridge, 17 feet 1.5 inches. And we all know about that.
But they wouldn't allow it.
Yes, on the day because of the crowds and stuff. I take it. Or
Well, I don't know what.
do you know what the background of that? Why it wasn't allowed?
I don't know what the reason is, but it wasn't allowed, and there has to be done on the lorry.
Yes. But we see, whenever we opened up the bridge, we had to go through the council. The road had to be closed.
Yeah.
You know, there was forms had to be filled in. There was all sorts of, you know, sort of council stuff had to be.
Yeah.
So it was probably the same even then.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
probably.
red tape that probably couldn't be got round then, you know.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they put the lorry. There's also the visual aspect of it. If you have it on a flatbed lorry,
Yeah.
people can see you from all angles.
Well,
and
there were-
everything.
there
Yeah,
were-
and there's a
there
big
were-
crowd
there-
on photos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you're up on the lorry then, so even
the lorry.
more exposed because people are watching.
And Sid Strachan then became the second person to lift them barehanded, and
Right.
he did that before I did the carry.
Okay.
And it was, you know, it was great to see a lovely man.
Yeah, I really love
And I
it.
think Jim Splain was next then.
I think Jim's playing would have been in
Oh,
around
yeah.
because I think Jim and Sid trained together.
Oh, they did. They
at
were,
Bankery
they were good friends.
Artisan Club, yeah.
Jim was a great lifter, a fantastic lifter.
Oh, fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I mean, he's like Brett. He lived locally.
Yeah.
He'd have driven past, jumped out of the car. How do we pull out the stones, go back into the car?
I know.
And get on with his day.
And then put his son on the shoulders there as well.
That's right, yeah, which is fantastic.
No,
Yeah.
Jim was a great lifter.
Yeah,
great.
yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
It was, and you were when you went back, you were a wee bit heavier when you went back.
No, I was still under 12 stone.
No,
I was still about.
I had your weights recorded there on the side. I know it was 11.7 the first one, but
Yeah.
maybe about 11.9 or 10 or
Yeah,
something.
but
the
it was
second
probably something like that. I was certainly under 12 stone.
Mhm.
Now, when I did the 900 ones, I was 12 stone,
one. Right.
2 or 3 pound or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing the photographs. I know Mum was there and our cousins from.
And you were there. You were there.
No, I wasn't at the second one either.
Oh no, so I'm talking about the.
Oh, that the 900.
900
Oh, I was
thing,
there
yeah,
at that one.
yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was no way over in
Great.
Scotland. You could see all the pictures, and there was a. I remember there was a bodybuilder. There was like an opening show before you did yours, because there was a guy who did bodybuilding,
Some fella called Main or something. I can't just remember his name.
and there was another fellow doing snatches. I remember.
Aye, that's right. Yeah.
There was some of the
Oh no,
photographs.
there's a wee bit of a show on right
It
now.
was a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
because I mean, this is obviously, I mean, lifting the stones for the first time in '72 was a big thing, but now they actually, you know, they actually come back and somebody actually going to carry them, and the same guy, you know, a year later. I mean, that's you know, because then he only ever talked. Well, actually, come that was for me. There was three things that then he sort of kind of put out there. I mean, he obviously put out that he lifted them, one on each hand.
Yeah.
He put out that he carried them across the bridge, but he also talked about his father lifting the stones, and that actually caught my imagination.
Father must have been a strong man. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's obviously the father-son connection there, and the legacy, which is kind of why I wanted to do this, because you know, I mean, that I know there are other father-son combinations out there now who are either training to do them together.
Yeah.
We have Bill Crawford and his son Billy.
And he'll do it too.
He'll do
That'll
it
be
too.
great. Yeah.
And like Shearer's son is up to the full
Oh,
weight in
that's
training.
good. That's terrific.
It is,
Great.
yeah. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we have that next generation now of father-son. So I think it's important to kind of point out, you know, that it's I mean, that there's the lift them, there's the carry them, but then there's passing it on to the next generation. And I know all the dads out there who've lifted them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's oh, sorry, hold on. But what's your thoughts? Legend has it Denny's father Robert walked the length. Yeah, okay, Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I don't like putting opinions out there that are kind of controversial, but there are some things that you have to say at a point. You know that's just not possible. You know, because I mean, if you get the full story, I mean, there's Brett's coming in. I mean, he did it with one stone. That makes sense. I can see somebody doing the full length of the bridge with one stone, but to do the full length, I mean that's 100 feet, not 17. I think a forklift would struggle to carry the length of the bridge, you know. So small one like duck walking, absolutely, you know. But I mean, they talk. I mean, there's actually, as Jamie pointed this out. I mean, I hadn't really considered, because they talk about the three things: they lift them, they carry them, and then the father does something. Another thing too that came out, and I know about it, but it just never registered. And it was Jamie pointed it out, is that Donald Denny talks about his father lifting the big stone up onto the parapet of the bridge.
Very well.
You know, that's 188 kilos, 440 pounds. You know, he would have lifted that onto the wall of the bridge. You know, which would have been a thing back then, because you think of the Inverstone, the challenge for the Inverstone is to lift the Inverstone up onto a wall at waist height. You know, so it was in keeping with that tradition. You know, of lifting, getting the wind under a stone. But
not even heavier.
188 kilos. I mean, the Inverstone's 120.
Yeah.
So that's huge. You know, so
unbelievable.
yeah. But I mean, I think if we were to, if people were to lift the big stone up onto the parapet of Petark Bridge, I think everybody's hearts would be in their mouth when it would fall off. You know, but that would be something. Yeah, that would be something. All right. But no, I don't think that Denny's father walked the length of the bridge with the stones. But I mean, I can certainly believe that he took one stone the length of it. Of course, you know, because we seen Bill Casimir, you know, John Paul Sigmason, you know, taking them the length of the bridge up at
Bill Casimir.
No, Bill. Yeah, it was Bill and John Paul.
They took one at a time.
They did at Huntley Castle.
Yeah.
That was Pure Strength 1988. They did that, you know, so you could see it. That is very possible.
They were fantastic strong men.
Oh, they were. They absolutely were. Yeah, they were incredible strong men.
The Bill Casimir, to me, is still the strongest man that ever lived. I'm just really impressed. There's something about him, isn't there?
There is. There is. I mean, I
know he's a different generation. But I think there's something special about Bill Casimir.
There is. I've the odd compliment. I've met Bill a few times. Yeah. I'm lucky enough to do that. I consider him a friend these days.
Yeah, I know.
And we've talked about stuff like that, you know. And I mean, I always remember hearing the term goat. And I'm thinking, why is he calling him a goat? Look at the sign of him, he's calling him a goat. I said, if Bill hears that, he's going to flap me. But then I realised that goat means the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's a thing I only found out, you know, the last few years, you know. So I'm like, boy, you've some neck on you calling Bill Casimir a goat. You know, but I mean, I have to say, I agree with you, Dad. I mean, you and I watching the strongman stuff when I was a boy.
Yeah.
You know,
and then we met him in person. Do you remember?
We did, and that was amazing.
And a real gentleman, real gentleman.
He was. I mean, I think one of the things, I mean, as a musician traveling around, you kind of, there's a thing that people say is don't meet your heroes. You know, keep them out there, keep that, you know, that on that pedestal. You know, because something can let you down. You know, and maybe I've seen that, you know, with some of the musicians I've met. But meeting Bill Casimir, you know, it was a hell of a day for us. And he was everything that we kind of hoped.
A gentleman,
and a Christian man too.
Yes.
Yeah, which was very impressive.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So I mean, I would love to get Bill onto this. Bill, if you're watching, please come on. It would be lovely to chat to you. You know,
I would love to see you too.
Yeah,
Bill.
I mean, you'd end up with two people firing questions at you.
Yeah, I'd be clapping you.
You know, I don't get starstruck. You know, I really don't, because it's been entertainment for so long. But I will be a bit starstruck with Bill.
Well, I would definitely be starstruck.
Yeah. So that was your carry done.
That was a carry.
That was amazing, and I mean, for me, I mean that's what I've been telling people my whole life. My dad. Have you ever heard of Denny Stones? My dad lifted Denny. My dad carried my dad. I'm sure I bore the backside of people. You know, the amount of times I've said that.
Well, I never got much satisfaction out of that carrying thing, because I thought I hadn't done it the right way.
I think if you'd have been in the right circles, you know, because I remember you trained on your own. You were over here in Northern Ireland. You were in Scotland. Yeah. You know, and one of the things that really struck me, it was Peter Martin told me this about how big a deal that was. Peter Martin obviously travelled all around Scotland, you know, and all of the historic stone sites. Yeah. And he travelled to North Uist, which Jamie and I were talking about last week. And he met some of the locals there, and they invited him in for a cup of tea, because they obviously respected what he was doing. You know, apparently they're quite private people. And he said he went into one of their houses. He was sitting having a cup of tea, and on the wall there was a picture of you on the Denny Stones.
Not just because I was first, Stephen.
Yeah, which I thought was lovely. I was really touched by it. I thought that was a really lovely story. I did, you know.
Well, here, Stephen, that's enough about me. What about your story?
Haha, well,
Aye.
I mean, but my I only ever see my story as an extension of yours.
Well,
You know, because I mean, obviously,
you didn't start till you were 50.
I mean, I never considered lifting the Denny stones at all ever. I remember in around the year, it was exactly the year 2000. I was over in Scotland with the band. We were playing in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
We were, and I remember thinking, they're not that far from the Denny. I'd never seen them, you know, or been near them, and I always wanted to. I mean, by that stage, I'd have been 37. Yeah, about 37. Aye, 37. So
that's the age I was when I lifted them.
yeah, it was. And I remember thinking, I would love to see them. You know, so I mean, obviously after the gig, you know, we had a bit of a party, and the rest of the guys were all having a wee kind of recovery day in the hotel. And I said to one of the crew, my mate Spike, who lives over here, I said, Spike, come on, walk down and see the stones. I mean, they're only, I think it was only about 25-30 miles away.
Yeah, right.
It was from Aberdeen, you know. So we jumped in the car and we navigated our way down. And we came on the bridge. I remember it opening up in front of me, and I couldn't believe it, because to me it's this mythical thing, you know. My whole life that you know, I've only ever seen it in photographs, heard stories of, but never actually. And I remember the feeling of actually. I said, look, I recognise that. There's the bridge. There's the stones. They were outside the bridge, you know. They were outside the hotel in their old position, you know, outside the door, and they were chained up.
Chained together.
And I remember, and at the time, that's the only time since I was 15 I had my hair cut.
That's right.
And my hair, it was like flipping Action Man.
We've got the photograph of it. We've got the photograph of it.
And I was 9 stone 2 soaking wet.
Oh, my goodness,
you know,
I think your mum put it on.
I think she did, but I remember seeing the stones and just being blown away. And I went over, and they were chained up, so you couldn't obviously, I couldn't even get standing over them properly, but I had a wee pull at the wee, and it came off the ground, the wee one. You know, it did.
That's good for you.
And I stood over the big one, and I think, nah, I'm not even going to bother, I'm going to wreck myself, you know. So I walked away, but it was just lovely, you know, seeing them and being in that the same area and all that history, because obviously it means so much to me.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been around it my whole life.
Your whole life.
At that point, I'd known the story for like 30 odd years. You know.
But then, what notion did you take when you were 50 of lifting weights?
It wasn't. I mean, I certainly didn't say, right, 50 now, go and lift the Denny stones. I think
No,
that'll be a nice
that-
wee
that-
life thing, you know.
that
So
came
yeah,
later, I
that
know.
came a lot later.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously, I think it was the turning 50 thing.
Yes.
You know, I've always been in decent shape, and playing the drums always kept me fit. And
You were always a great
always been
athlete at
strong.
school. You were a great athlete at school. The treble jump, the long jump.
Yeah, all the stuff. I mean,
And then you represented your country in badminton.
Yes, badminton was my big thing when I was a kid. Yeah, but I just thought it'd be nice, you know, to kind of just put a bit of muscle on, you know, and just go into my 50s in good shape.
Because you're a drummer in the band.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it doesn't look bad if you have a drummer. He's well put together on stage, and he's just his shirt off. It's not a bad look, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not. So I thought I'll just train up. And I met a fella called, it was one of the girls who worked with us, a girl called Kelly Smiley.
Yeah.
She was one of our singers. And she had her own gym. And I said, Kelly, have you any personal trainers in your gym? I'd like to do a wee bit for my 50th. She says, the gym's closed, Davey, but I do know of a really good personal trainer. And she put me in touch with him. I can't remember his name now. But
it wasn't Bunty, no?
No, it wasn't actually, no. But whatever it was, I had booked an appointment with him. And when it turned up, he wasn't there. He'd actually gone off sick for some reason.
Right.
So the gym owner said, look, I've got this guy for you. His name's Vinty Johnson.
Right.
So Vinty came out, and he's about 6 foot wide. You know, arms, I think 48-inch arms, you know. Unbelievable build of a fella. And this was under a tracksuit. You could just see everything was just sticking out everywhere, you know. And he was actually Mr. Northern Ireland 3 times in a row. And in the 4th time he came 2nd. So he was just literally a few months out from the competition. So look at him, I'm thinking, I won't be like that. You know, and him and I clicked immediately. You know, what a great trainer, because he really pushed me. You know, and I made gains quite quickly. You know, and we did deadlifts and we did all sorts of bodybuilding type
I couldn't
stuff.
believe the size of your biceps so quick.
I remember him saying to me, you know, I obviously told him about you and what you'd done. He says, I lifted £700 in a partial deadlift once. And I went, flip me, wow, that's incredible. You know, so we started training. And the first thing he did was he stuck straps on me. So he did. And I didn't know anything about straps, no straps. You know, I just did, but it never sat well with me.
No, I never used.
You know, and I said to him, "Do I have to use these?" And he said, "Yeah, well, I want you to keep both your knuckles forward, you know, and all that." So I did what he said. But then, just as the numbers came up, you know, when we were doing the deadlifts, I entered a competition, and I actually won it.
Mm-hmm.
And I set a new Northern Ireland record in my
Yeah,
first, and I
yeah.
thought, flip, this is great. And at that point, I mean, then because you had been doing all those lifts that you did with the was it the Kennedy lift you were doing, as it turned out,
Straddle
and
it, yeah.
you'd worked up to like 970 pounds in that.
Uh-huh.
I thought, you know what, I knew things were going, and I thought I'd love to try it. And then you and I started to train together,
Yeah,
and I started doing the sort of Kennedy lift thing, you know, off the racks,
yeah.
and the numbers were coming up and up and up. And I remember thinking, why don't I would love to have a go at the Denny Stones.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
You know, and in Vintage Gym, I had got myself up to 330 kilos.
Uh-huh.
That was in around mid to 2014.
Yeah.
And obviously, a bit of background to my dad's rings and stuff. You know,
This is about Tony, isn't it?
this is Tony, yeah.
Great
A
guy.
few guys, Blythe Stevenson, Tony Atchison, and Tom Love
Yeah.
had made contact with you about, you know, borrowing your rings and maybe a wee bit of a training advice, because I was in 2006, they were
Yeah.
training for the Denny Stones.
Yes.
And I remember you said, look, just come over, take
I'll
all the
give 'em
stuff.
to you, I'll give 'em to you,
So
yeah.
they turned up in a van one day, loaded all your stuff in the back. I remember them having a pull at your big stones individually, and it scared the living daylights out of them. So it did, you know, but they took all the weights away, and they were all successful. They all trained
Yeah,
and were
yeah.
successful lifters of the stones.
All
Denny
great
Stones.
guys too.
Good guys, yeah. So I contacted Tony and I said, Tony, look, here's what's happening. I've been training for a while. I'd like to have a go at the Denny Stones. I'm up doing the weight on a bar, but I know, you know, I need the rings obviously to make sure that we're on. And I thought, I'll get the rings, train for a couple of weeks, and then we'll just go over to Scotland. You know, naively, because I
So
thought
we wanted to borrow the rings from them.
we wanted to borrow the rings. So I went out. It was November 2014. We went out Scotland. He lives up near St Andrews.
Oh, it's 7 years ago.
Yes, and we went over and got man. He very kindly gave me all Dad's weights and his rings back, and I took them back home. And my very first lift, I thought I'll probably be in around the 700. Wrong. I think I failed at 550. If I remember right, you know, it was in around the sort of 250 kilo mark.
Yeah.
And I was like, flipping heck. I mean, the grip was hard, the stance was hard. Everything was just felt so different than a bar. I couldn't believe the difference. Obviously, the different heights and stuff played a big part in it. So at that point, I said, Tony, I might need these a bit longer than I thought originally, you know. So he said, look, Stevie, keep them as long as you need it. He says, I mean, and in fact, just hold on,
keep them, yeah.
hold on to the weights. But he said, if you could send me the rings back, you know, because
Okay,
I'm
that's
still
right,
training, yeah,
Yeah.
which he was at the time.
I forgot.
So
about
what I
that,
did was
yeah.
I had a mate who worked as an engineer, and I gave him your rings, and I said, would you be able to make me something like this? So he was able to make me. It was actually, I can't even say, I'll get him in trouble.
Right, okay.
But it was a well-known bus company. It was. And he got these things made, and they were just like Dad's pins, you know, the right heights and everything.
Yeah.
But they had no rings. They weren't able to make the rings. They were just able to make me the pins with a screw on top. So I had a friend in work, and he was a blacksmith, and he actually made me the rings. So that was that, and I put them in an envelope and sent them back to Tony, and then from that point I was able to train. But I remember we did the first Donald Denny Day, which was in 2017. That was August 17 when we did. It was Donald Denny. It wasn't Donald Denny. It was just the Denny Steens gathering.
Yeah.
This one here. Yep. He very kindly gave me them back. He brought them along, and he said, Stevie, I want these to go back to you and the family. And I thought that was lovely. I was really touched with that, you know. So we still have them. I'll never give them away again. Like,
Real nice guy, Tony. Yeah.
definitely not. But the thing that I enjoyed most about me lifting the stones was training with you to get me up to the point of being able to lift the stones. I mean, lifting the stones was amazing, of course it was.
No, you
That was
did
a great
great.
achievement,
Yeah,
but
you did
I
great.
enjoyed the training and all the different 550, 600, you know, 650, 660. It was 300 kilos, passing all those different landmarks, and you were there for every one of them, and that meant actually more to me
I kept a record
than the
on
actual
the
lift.
pickleball.
It's all written
Yeah,
down, yeah. So that was amazing for me.
I remember you're over 50 years of age and only
I
started.
was 50. I was 50, about 53, I think. The first time I lifted them, you know, I've lifted them a few times since. But I mean, the first one you remember, you know, and that's
right.
I mean, a lot of guys are obviously asking me about training and stuff, and I always say, you know, make your first one count. Make sure you're prepared. You know, don't go along and do a half a lift, or don't go along and fail. You know, there's so many people saying hello there. Sorry guys, I'm blethering away here and I haven't even. Oh, there's Jim. Hiya, Jim. Matt Jones. Yes, Matt, that's a very good point you're making. You know, with my dad's one arm deadlifts, with his hack lifts, and straddle lifts, and Kennedy's, all
the perfect
And,
training.
I mean, I had never done any overhead lifting, but Dad would have done that, and he would. His numbers were great. What was it you
No, no.
pressed over your head? 250.
No, it was a jerk.
A clean jerk of 250.
Clean jerk, no.
Yeah.
No, I was never on that.
I but 250 pounds at your body weight. I mean, if you look at what people now are doing, I mean, that's good numbers. So I remember looking at the numbers you told me that you did,
Yeah.
and then just checking records and stuff
Well,
as you do. You know.
I think the best people in my weight at that time were doing 300.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, to 250.
But I could power clean it and jerk
Uh-huh.
it. Yeah.
Wow. You know, but that was a journey that I really enjoyed. I have to say, I know the journey's a bit of a cliche, but you know, it was that, you know, going through all the different things, and first time I lifted 200 kilos off the ground, the hack lift was very cool as well, you know, and it was great to share all those with you.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
No, that was great time.
I
It
did.
really
It was a fabulous time.
Uh-huh.
It was, and then we were asked to do Stoneland.
Yeah, that
We
was
were.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember Terry Todd contacting me, and you know, we put them in touch with Jim and with Brett, and we all turned up, and what an experience that was. You know, it was great because I mean, Jim's now, I mean, he's an integral part of what we do.
Yeah.
You know, Brett's an integral part of what we do with the Stones. You know, we've got a great team now. So we have, you know, and I mean, we've got the gathering now is a thing. You know, it is. Where my first idea was when we did Stoneland, that there was you and David Webster, Jan Todd, Terry Todd.
Terry.
You know, there was Martin Janksik, so was Brett Nickel. You know, there was I think there was 7 of us there who had lifted the stones. I thought, wouldn't it be lovely if we could get everybody together who'd lifted the stones?
Yeah.
And that was the initial idea. And when we all talked about it, obviously we formed the committee, and we invited all the previous lifters. And I think there was about 30 odd previous lifters turned up in that first event.
Yeah.
And that was some day, and that's where we had the 2 carries. We had Mark Haydock carried across the bridge. We had Brian Irwin carried across the bridge, you know, and some really fantastic attempts at the bridge as well.
Davy Bagland had a good attempt.
Davy had a brilliant, and Chad Ulm had a great you know, attempt at it. I mean, there was so many really good things happened that day.
You see, once you got involved in this, I think it ignited the whole thing. And I don't it seemed to, because up to that it was more or less dead.
Yeah.
And then this father son thing, the Americans got elected, and
yeah, well they did absolutely. Yeah. I think what the reason it's been so successful is because we've got such a good team. You know, when you think, I mean, there's almost every Saturday after we set up the rules, well, not the rules, but the process for having an attempt at the Denny's. I mean, there's Brett's down there every Saturday. Jim and Rosemary are there every Saturday, you know, taking the photographs.
Brilliant people,
Belogi
absolutely
team,
brilliant
you know.
people. Without them, we'd be lost.
Yeah,
great.
And we have the website now. You know, the reason I created the website was because Gordon Denny, you know, had his own website, and he was recording all of the lifts. And then Gordon sadly passed away. Yeah. No, he did, you know, so I think...
That was a pity too.
It was, because I mean, I think Gordon would have loved all this, and Peter Martin would have loved all this.
And Peter Martin was coming to see you.
Oh my goodness, because he died 1 week before my first...
No, that was sad, Steve.
Yeah, it was very sad.
Yeah.
It was, but I mean, so much positive stuff has come out of this.
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously when we did the first Donald Denny Day, or the first Denny Stones Day, I know David Webster had always wanted the Donald Denny Day, so we called the second one Donald Denny Day just for David's thing, you know. And then the third year I kind of thought, if we keep, and I don't mean this disrespectful to the Stones, but if we just keep doing it Denny Stones,
that's right.
Year after year, at some point it's going to lose its appeal.
Oh no, you're dead right.
So and you know, I spoke to Brett about it, and I spoke to all the committee and Jim and everybody, and everybody thought it was a good idea that we introduced games.
David Webster,
and David loved the idea, obviously, with the Donald Denny Day and stuff, and it's evolved now in such a way where it's actually just all natural stones.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not entirely sure that there's another event anywhere in the world. There might be 1 or 2 around the world, but it's not a thing where everything's natural. I mean, obviously have weights and different things. So very proud of that. You know, we've got this thing now to a point. Yeah. And we're fingers crossed now for this year for Donald Denny Day, which will be Sunday the 8th of August. We're obviously waiting for the appointed committee to decide. And if they decide not to, I'm not entirely sure that we can't make it happen. Anyway,
well,
you know, but we'll just see what's allowed, because I mean, so many guys out there are training for this, you know, specifically for this.
This COVID-19 knocked everything in the
and I don't want to let them down. You know, I mean, if we can make this happen, and I know Brett's behind me, and the rest of the team will be behind me in this, but you know, if we can make this thing happen, You know, I mean, yes, it'll not be as good as having the games on where everybody can see their boying games and ours, and there's a big buzz of the crowd. But you know, we have to think of the lifters too, because you and I know the sort of work that goes into preparing to lift the Dinny Stones or to train for a competition. So, you know, we need to obviously be able to make that happen if we can for everybody. Yeah. I've really enjoyed this.
Aye, that's great.
You know, and I hope everybody else got it. I actually think.
I hope we haven't bored you.
I hope we haven't bored you. That's right. You know, I think it's important that anybody that's interested in the history of the Dinny Stones, you know, particularly gets to hear it, you know, like I say, from the horse's mouth. There's cousin Mark. Because he was there, wasn't he? I think you were just a baby, Mark. You and Neil were at it. I think you might have been just a...
I don't know whether...
Maybe it was just
their
Neil.
mother was there.
I know Jean was there, yeah.
Jean, I've got a photograph of Jean there. Yeah. That's right.
In secret, yeah. Good man, Darren says one way or another, either in the open or in secret, we need to get the games on. Yeah, I think we need to, Darren. You're absolutely right, brother. Listen, I promise you this: if it's at all possible, and it's safe and it's permitted, we're not breaking the law. We'll make something happen.
Good,
you know, I'll make that undertaking. I mean, there's obviously a lot out of my hands, you know, but when it comes to Brett and me and Jim and all the team that's involved in this thing, and Mark and all the guys, you know, we'll if it's possible, we'll make this happen.
And your mum just loves Scotland. She's really looking forward to get over.
Aye, we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things about Scotland and D-side, you know, and I've mentioned this a few times, but I'm not sure if you and I have discussed it. I mean, obviously, you being my dad, you mean I've got the connection to the Dinny Stones through you. But when you think about the Aboyne Games are the Highland Games that the Dinny Stones are associated with, and each Highland Games has a clan that runs it.
Yeah.
The clan that runs the Aboyne Games is the Gordon clan, and my mother's maiden name is Gordon. There it is. So, I mean, from my mum's connection with the Gordon clan and my dad with the Dinny Stones, I was never escaping this. I was never getting away from it.
I think Shanks is a Scottish name anyway.
Well, it is. It's associated with the Galloway.
Nothing to do with toilets, no.
Nothing to do with toilets. I know old jokes out there. Well, folks, I hope you got something out of that. I mean, I really wanted everybody just to hear my dad's story from my dad.
And before I get any older.
You can't be any older.
Almost 86.
Almost 86. And still trains 3 times a week. That's more than I'm doing at the minute. So, folks, listen, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We definitely enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we're going off to get a cup of tea now. Here we are. And enjoy your Friday night. And next week, we're going to carry on with this theme of father and son. And probably Dad's going to come in with me on it as well. Bill Crawford and Billy Crawford.
Yeah.
I met Billy at the Arnolds in 2017. And he was a wee skinny boy at 13 years of age, you know, or 13 or 14. You know, I think he was about 7 stone soaking wet. He's not now. He's really filled out. I think he's 18 now. And like his dad, Bill Crawford's obviously with Milo and all those things. I mean, everybody, and he's one of the presenters at the Arnolds every year.
A real gentleman.
Bill is a real gentleman and a real prominent figure.
Yeah.
You know, in stone lifting, etc. He featured in Stoneland with us. So we're going to have Bill and his son Billy, and we'll do a father-son chat. You know, about what their plans are about lifting the Dinny Stones. I think they're hoping to come over to the gathering this year. So it'd be lovely to see another father and son doing it, and obviously Imlach and his son are doing it too. So, you know, they've all that to look forward to. We have the gathering to look forward to, hopefully, and you know, hopefully many more years of just growing stone lifting around the world.
And there's one thing you missed there. You've been at the Arnolds.
Oh, well, I mean, the Arnolds. Well, I suppose, Bill and I can talk about that because Bill and I competed together with Mark Felix and O'Hagan.
And Bill Cosmer, the referee.
Bill was our referee. That's gonna motivate you to not fail. When Kaz and Mark Henry are standing behind you, you're not gonna fail. Definitely, yeah. That was a great day. It was. Listen, folks, all the best, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place.
So thank you very much.
Bye. I can never work out how to turn this thing. I have no idea. There should be a wee button somewhere. I wonder does that do it.